Millions in Syria and Iraq are facing water shortages as the region's longest river, the Euphrates, dries up.
Something unusual is happening beneath the Euphrates River, and it's starting to scare scientists, historians, and even religious scholars. After a massive earthquake, a mysterious cave was exposed beneath the Euphrates River. And inside, scientists found signs that seemed to align with end-time prophecy in chilling detail. Intricate carvings, warnings written in 17 ancient languages, and 4 massive chains embedded into solid stones. But the most disturbing detail was that the chains were broken, as if whatever they once restrained was no longer there. Jesus warned that when these things begin, many would be caught sleeping. And when we see what's happening in this region, it feels like the countdown has already begun. But what exactly have researchers found beneath this sacred river? And how do these discoveries match warnings written thousands of years ago? Let's find out. What the Euphrates revealed. The Euphrates River is one of the oldest rivers on Earth, flowing through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq for thousands of years. It has shaped some of the earliest civilizations in human history. Ancient cities rose beside it, empires fought over it, and millions depended on its waters to survive. But in the last few years, something unusual has started happening. Water levels across parts of the Euphrates have dropped between 40% and 60%, especially near major reservoirs connected to Turkey's Ataturk Dam. But what concerns researchers is not just the drying itself, it's what the retreating water is beginning to expose. Because for the first time in more than 50 years, layers buried beneath the riverbed started reappearing. Thick sediments, ancient debris fields, hardened mineral deposits, and geological formations that had remained sealed under water pressure for decades suddenly became visible again. And while this might sound like just an environmental shift, the matter is far more serious. Because this river is not just historically important, it carries deep religious weight. It appears in the Bible from the very beginning, in Genesis, as one of the rivers connected to Eden. Later, it becomes tied to Babylon, prophecy, and the final events described in Revelation. In Islamic tradition, too, the Euphrates is connected to major signs of the end times. So when the river itself begins revealing buried layers beneath its surface, people naturally pay attention. But it's not just water recession, because satellite scans revealed something far stranger. Thermal imaging and radar surveys detected clusters of underground voids beneath the exposed riverbed. What alarmed researchers was not simply that hollow spaces existed underground, but the way they appeared. The formations were grouped in structured patterns that did not resemble normal erosion. At first, geologists explained this through natural underground cave systems formed in limestone and gypsum over thousands of years. These types of landscapes are called karst systems, in which groundwater slowly dissolves rock, creating caves, sinkholes, and underground voids. That part was real. But in multiple areas, the soil layering did not follow the normal geological order. Older gravel beds sat above hollow sections that should never have existed naturally at that depth, which raised a much larger question. If these formations are not just natural cavities, then what exactly was built, buried, or sealed beneath one of the most prophetic rivers in human history? The sealed chamber. Deep inside the exposed Euphrates basin, after moving past broken rock layers and damaged underground passages, the structure suddenly changes. Natural limestone walls stop abruptly, and in their place, rough stone gives way to flat, cut surfaces. The shift is too sharp to be natural. It feels like the cave did not continue forming. It was taken over by something intentional. And this is where the first unusual detail appears. The space is centered. The chamber follows a clear geometric layout, with balanced spacing and straight boundaries. Reports from similar underground excavations in the Euphrates basin suggest that even small geometric precision underground needs centimeter-level accuracy something extremely difficult to achieve without deliberate planning. Then comes something even more important. The ceiling is not weak or broken. It is stable and shaped to distribute pressure from above. Engineering studies of deep limestone vaults show that structures at depths of 10 to 30 meters can experience extreme geostatic pressure, often exceeding several tons per square meter. Yet this chamber shows no major collapse patterns. Instead, it appears built to hold weight. At 4 separate points inside the chamber, there are fixed formations carved into solid bedrock. These are not loose objects, but permanent anchor-like points embedded directly into stone. Even more unusual, there are almost no signs of water erosion. That is unexpected in a river basin environment where seasonal flooding can leave clear mineral stains and sediment lines over time. But here, the chamber appears largely cut off from that entire system. Now, none of this fully makes sense on its own until we look at something else. Across different ancient traditions and early religious writings, there are repeated references to sealed places, restrained forces, and things held beneath the Euphrates until an appointed time. Some texts also symbolically mention 4 bound forces, or beings kept in confinement. And when we see those 4 anchor points found in the cave, the connection becomes hard to ignore. We'll explain this idea later in the video. For now, let's look at the structural detail that takes everything to a whole new level. The chamber is precisely aligned with the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. This would only be possible if surface directions were measured and transferred underground with extreme accuracy. And yet, despite all this precision and engineering, one question still remains. Why build something this deep, this calculated, and this structurally reinforced, only to seal it beneath centuries of river sediment? The ancient warnings. Inside the sealed chamber beneath the Euphrates, the walls begin to change again. At first, it looks like simple markings carved into stone, but as the light moves across them, it becomes clear these are not random symbols. They are inscriptions, deep-cut, deliberate, and preserved directly into the rock surface. In the ancient world, this was the most permanent way to store a message. Stone carving meant the words were supposed to survive empires, wars, and time itself. But here, something is different. The inscriptions appear in multiple ancient languages, not 1, not 2, but 17 different scripts carved across the same structure. Languages from completely separate regions and eras. Some are known from history: Akkadian cuneiform, Sumerian, Aramaic, Phoenician, Ancient Greek, Latin, and even later scripts tied to entirely different civilizations. In archaeology, even finding 3 languages on one monument is rare. But here, the scale goes far beyond anything documented. And yet, the message is identical in every language. The words repeat across the walls like a fixed rule, translated with precision so no meaning is lost. Do not unseal. Held until the appointed time. These are not normal warnings. Ancient inscriptions usually threaten trespassers with death, illness, or curses, but this is different. A message not about guarding something, but delaying it, and that changes everything. Because phrases like appointed time appear in ancient prophetic texts. In Daniel 12:4 it is written, "Shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end." And in Revelation 5:1, a sealed scroll is held until the moment it can be opened. Different texts, same idea. Something sealed, not forever, but until a fixed point in time. Some inscriptions even reflect linguistic styles separated by thousands of years, suggesting the site may have been revisited across time, each time receiving the same instruction. And this connects to something even older in Mesopotamian tradition, the idea of buried knowledge archives, where wisdom was sealed underground to survive destruction and wait for a future return. But the story doesn't end there, because it's not just hidden chambers and carved warnings. As the scientists moved deeper inside, the environment began to shift in ways that felt completely wrong and almost impossible to explain. The disturbing anomalies. The deeper the team moves, the more the environment inside the chamber starts behaving in ways that do not match normal underground conditions. It begins with temperature. Small sections of the chamber suddenly drop in heat, not the entire space. only specific zones where the air turns sharply colder. Normally, deep caves stay stable in temperature, matching the long-term average of the surface above. But here, localized cold pockets appear without warning. Then comes something more unstable. Oxygen levels begin to shift. Instead of a steady mix of gases, sensors detect irregular fluctuations. Deep underground systems can trap heavier gases like carbon dioxide or methane, forming invisible layers that do not mix evenly with oxygen. In certain areas, oxygen drops suddenly, while nearby zones show normal levels, creating an uneven breathing pattern inside the chamber. The air itself starts to feel different. Researchers describe it as unusually dense, almost like moving through thicker space. This can happen in underground chambers where air becomes pressurized. It can also occur when moisture slowly spreads through microscopic pores in rock, increasing humidity enough to change how the air moves and resists motion. Then the instruments begin to lose consistency. Magnetic compasses drift away from true direction. Digital systems start glitching, and battery readings fluctuate without a clear reason. In regions like the Euphrates Basin, iron-rich rock and basalt formations can naturally disturb local magnetic fields. But what stands out here is not any single disturbance. It's the fact that everything starts failing at once, as if something deeper is triggering all systems to break together. Then comes the sound. A low vibration rises through the floor. Not something heard clearly, but felt deep in the body. These are infrasound waves below 20 Hz, too low for human hearing, yet strong enough to affect the human system. And the impact on the team is immediate. Dizziness, nausea, chest pressure, and sudden confusion, the typical reactions when the human body is exposed to low-frequency vibration, along with small changes in oxygen or carbon dioxide levels. But what makes this chamber different is that none of these explanations fully match the scale or timing. There is no single airflow source, no clear gas leak, no visible seismic trigger, just multiple disturbances happening at the same time without a clear origin. In normal geology, cave systems can always be traced back to a cause. Airflow, water movement, pressure shifts, or seismic activity, there is always a link. But here, the signals do not converge. They scatter until the instruments pick up something deeper beneath the chamber floor. A repeating vibration pattern, structured, consistent, and timed. And that pattern does not match natural movement. It matches something else, something repeating at measured intervals inside the Earth itself. The impossible rupture pattern. The ground beneath the Turkey-Syria-Iraq region has always been active, but what has been recorded in recent major seismic events doesn't just look powerful, it looks strangely organized. In the 2023 earthquake sequence, the rupture zone stretched for more than 300 kilometers, cutting across mountains, cities, and directly through parts of the Euphrates Basin. In most earthquakes, energy releases along a single fault line and gradually fades out. But here, the behavior didn't stay in one place. It broke, paused, and then continued somewhere else. Hours later, separate fault lines reactivated, as if the stress was transferring through the crust, instead of releasing all at once in a single break. But the most disturbing part is not just the scale, it's the shape it left behind. Satellite mapping and field surveys show long, unusually straight rupture lines instead of the chaotic, jagged cracking expected in earthquakes. In some areas, the ground split into near-clean corridors up to 30 meters wide, with sudden vertical drops reaching 10 to 40 meters. Even more unsettling, some of these breaks occurred in areas where no major fault lines were previously mapped, suggesting the crust didn't just fail along known weak points, it failed across unknown ones too. And then there's the sound. Survivors describe it not as a rolling wave of shaking, but as a sudden tearing noise across distance, like metal being ripped under extreme force. This matches what seismology calls a supershear rupture, where the break moves faster than seismic waves, producing a violent shock front effect. In scripture, Isaiah 24:19 uses symbolic language for something similar. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean, dissolved, a description of structural collapse at a foundational level, not just surface shaking. Now, modern science does not interpret these events as controlled or intentional, but visually, the pattern becomes hard to unsee. Long, straight fractures, sudden directional shifts, deep displacement that behaves less like scattered chaos and more like movement along hidden lines. But this pattern isn't limited to earthquakes only. If we zoom out and see the full picture, we clearly see that something is wrong with this whole region, and as time passes, it's only getting worse. Signs beyond the cave. The Euphrates Basin is one of the oldest inhabited corridors on Earth, and for thousands of years it has remained a stable ground for civilizations, agriculture, and settlement. But in the last few years, that stability has begun to collapse in ways that don't follow any known rules of nature. One of the most disturbing shifts is the sudden formation of extreme storms and flash floods. In normal conditions, storms develop gradually. But here, satellite and meteorological data show violent supercells forming within minutes, especially across the Taurus and Zagros mountain corridors. And it doesn't stop there. In some cases, months of rainfall are released in just a few hours, turning hardened dry ground into collapsing surfaces almost instantly. At the same time, rivers like the Euphrates rise sharply, even when local rainfall doesn't match the increase. Then another layer begins to fail. Infrastructure systems start breaking in clusters that are hard to explain as isolated technical faults. GPS signals drift, communication networks drop, and power grids fail without a single identifiable trigger. Scientists studying this region have recorded intense telluric currents and piezoelectric activity in quartz-rich rock layers where stress in the Earth generates electrical pulses that travel upward into the atmosphere. These pulses disturb satellite signals and create what looks like a technical breakdown across entire regions. But what makes this more unsettling is that it is not only machines reacting, nature reacts too. Dust storms spread across Syria and Iraq, forming a continuous corridor of orange skies. In some cases, lightning appears inside dry storm systems even when no rain is falling. Scientists link this to extreme pressure differences between high atmospheric systems over Anatolia and low-pressure zones near the Persian Gulf. That instability can disrupt weather patterns across thousands of kilometers at once. Also, people living in these regions report something harder to explain: a constant sense of pressure, anxiety, mental fatigue. This is often linked to infrasound waves produced by deep tectonic movement, frequencies below human hearing, that still affect the body and mind. But it's not just about humans. Animals react even earlier. Dogs refuse shelter. Livestock avoid specific ground zones. Migratory birds suddenly abandon established Euphrates flyways. In some locations, the most reported sign is silence. Entire zones where insects stop chirping and birds vanish hours before environmental changes occur. Across all of this, one pattern keeps repeating: underground movement, shifting water systems, atmospheric instability, animal withdrawal, and rare light phenomena, all occurring along the same connected corridor of land. And that's when the pattern starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a single system reacting under stress. Ancient texts describe something similar. In Isaiah 24, the earth is described as being utterly broken and moved exceedingly, while in Revelation, signs in both the earth and sky are said to appear together before major unfolding events. Whether read historically or symbolically, the core idea remains the same. When multiple layers of reality begin reacting at once, it suggests a deeper shift beneath them all. And as these signs continue to spread beyond the cave and across the Euphrates Basin, the question becomes unavoidable. If everything above the surface is reacting like this, then what is causing it below? Because whatever is happening at this scale is not just an event anymore. It feels like a threshold. The threshold, After everything we have looked at, the strange underground cavities, the sealed chamber, the ancient warnings, the earthquakes, the lights in the sky, and the growing instability around the Euphrates, the real question is no longer whether these events are connected. The real question is what they are leading toward. Because when all these anomalies begin appearing together in the same region, it stops feeling like an isolated coincidence. It starts looking like a chain reaction, one system affecting another, until the entire region begins responding as a single body under pressure. And few places carry more historical weight than the Euphrates River. For thousands of years, it was the boundary between empires, between East and West, between stability and invasion. In ancient history, crossing the Euphrates often meant the beginning of war, but its significance goes even deeper than politics. The Euphrates appears at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis 2:14 as one of the rivers flowing from Eden. It later flows beside Babylon, the center of rebellion and human pride in the Old Testament. And in Revelation, it becomes the final prophetic boundary before worldwide judgment unfolds. The same river appears at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the biblical story. That is why many people see the drying of the Euphrates as more than an environmental crisis. They see it as a threshold, a transition point. In Matthew 24, Jesus warned that the last days would be marked by increasing earthquakes, famine, conflict, and fear spreading together like birth pains, growing stronger and closer together over time. And in Revelation 16:12, one specific verse stands out. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up. Another passage, Revelation 9:14, gives an even more unsettling image. Release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Whether someone reads these verses symbolically or literally, the connection is difficult to ignore. A river tied to prophecy for nearly 2,000 years is now physically drying in front of the world, while the entire surrounding region experiences growing instability across land, sky, water, and human systems all at once. So, in the end, maybe these are only natural events, maybe they are warnings, or maybe humanity is approaching a moment it no longer recognizes until it is already standing inside it. Because throughout history, the most dangerous moments were never the ones people expected. They were the ones people explained away until it was too late. So, what do you think? Are these events only coincidences or signs of something much bigger? And if the Euphrates truly was a boundary, what happens when that boundary finally disappears? Let us know your thoughts about this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you do not want to miss more incredible videos like this, subscribe to the channel. We will see you in the next one.